January 29th, 2026, silver punched through 121 an ounce for the first time in history.
Fox Business Alert. Just when the gold and silver rally looked dead in the water earlier today, investors, as we told you at the top of the show, they came flooding back, igniting a rebound, sending both metals to fresh, glittering records. But the precious metal glistening even more brightly is silver, which has spiked nearly 60% since just the start of the year.
By the next morning, it was $76. That was a 33% drop in less than 30 hours.
And now this, gold and silver falling sharply from their record highs.
Well, I mean, it's, when you have these astronomical rises like that, there's going to be profit taking. It's just going to happen. Nothing goes up forever.
Friday was when it all came crashing down. Gold fell 11%, while silver saw as much as 36% of its value wiped out in that single day.
Some people locked in legacy gains. A lot of people sold in panic and never got their position back. And every credible institutional desk is modeling another test of $100 before this year is out. But here's the part most people don't want to admit. Most of the folks who got hurt in January didn't get hurt because silver crashed. They got hurt because they didn't have a playbook written down before that big silver move. I'm Eric with Summit Metals. We do the work institutions do for themselves in a way people like you and me can actually use. But before I get into today's story, let me give you where we're standing right now. Our gold target still stands at 5,500. Our hold level, meaning the price we don't sell below, is 4,600. Gold is trading at about 4,718 as I'm recording this. On silver, the target is 110. The hold level is 72. Those are the marks. They've been our marks since April. Now, let me tell you why this matters to you today, even if you didn't sell in January. The same setup is forming again. Since January, silver has now clawed back to that 87, which is still up roughly 24% from where it started the year. Deutsche Bank is calling for 100 by year end. JP Morgan and Goldman are a little more cautious, but every serious desk on Wall Street is modeling a retest of triple digits somewhere in the next 2 quarters. Here's the part, though, that should hit home. When silver runs that fast, and it will run fast again, your brain doesn't think, your brain reacts, and the reactions are almost always wrong. People sold at 90 on the way up because they couldn't believe the move was real. They sold at 76 on the way down because they couldn't believe it would recover. Same person, 2 opposite decisions, both losing positions. The only thing that protects you from that is what I call a written playbook. Not a playbook in your hand, not a feeling, an actual document. I put together a briefing for this video. The 1-page silver playbook template, the exact framework I'm about to walk you through, and the numerical anchors the institutional desk are working from right now. It's the first link in the description. Download it. This is an example of the actual playbook that you'll receive. It's 4 pages. It goes through all the levels. It's really incredible. And I think you'll find it very, very helpful because even on page 4, it's got a bit of an implementation plan to help you in using it, what to do next. All right, so I've talked to dozens of people in the exact situation over the last 3 months. Same story almost every single time. A man in his early 60s, 5 years from full retirement, built a silver position slowly over the years, started at say $25, $30, $35 an ounce, watched it climb through the 40s, the 60s, the 90s. By January 29th, his position had actually quadrupled, and he never had a written playbook for what to do at 100. He didn't have one for 120 either. So when silver hit 121 and his phone started buzzing the next morning with crash headlines, he made a decision in about 3 minutes. He sold a third of his position at 90 on the way down. thinking he was being smart, thinking he was locking in gains before it went lower. Silver bottomed at 76 a few hours later, then recovered to about 87 over the next 90 days. So look at the math on that decision. He sold at 90, which felt like a smart play in the moment, but he sold below his own purchase ladder average, and he hasn't bought any of it back because now 87 feels too high again. This is what happens without a written playbook. And here's the part that should concern you. This same person with the same silver position, if he'd had 4 numbers written on a piece of paper back in December, he would have done nothing in January, and he'd be roughly $40,000 better off today. 4 numbers, the whole difference. So let me show you what I mean. A real silver playbook, the kind institutions write before they take a position. The first one is your upper exit zone. That's the price where you start trimming the position, not selling everything, just trimming. For a lot of long-term silver holders, that zone is somewhere between 110 and 130, depending on what you paid for your average ounce. This number forces you to act when euphoria hits, because it hits fast. When silver was at 121 in January, the people without an upper exit zone froze. The people who had one started trimming at 110 and were sitting on cash when the crash inevitably came. The second number is your hold floor. This is the price below which you will not sell, period, not for any reason. This is your conviction line. For us right now, that floor is 72. Below 72, we hold. We may even add, but we do not sell, ever. Here's why this number matters. It takes the worst decision off the table before the pressure ever arrives. The guy who sold at 76 on Jan 30 didn't have a floor. If he'd had one written at 72, he would have held. The third number we want to talk about now is your add back triggers. If you trimmed at the upper exit zone, where do you start buying back in? This is the discipline most people skip. They sell on the way up, and then they never buy back on the way down because each price looks too high relative to whatever bottom they've been waiting for. The problem is the bottom they're waiting for is almost never the bottom that actually shows up. 2 or 3 add back levels written down before you ever sell. Fix this. For our framework right now, those triggers are layered in between 80 and the hold floor. And now the fourth number is your never sell line. This one is different from the hold floor. The hold floor is a price. The never sell line is a percentage of your total position. For most physical silver holders, this lands somewhere between 60 and 80% of your total ounces. You can trade around the edges of the position. You don't ever touch the core, ever. This is what institutions call a permanent allocation. It's your part of the stack that exists for a reason that does not depend on price. So those are your 4 numbers: upper exit zone, hold floor, add back triggers, and then your permanent allocation, written down on paper before silver moves. Here's where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Silver hit $50 in 1980. It took 31 years to get back there. Silver hit 48 in 2011. It took 14 years to break out again. Both of those tops looked exactly like what January 2026 looks like right now. Parabolic move, forced liquidation, crash, people assuming the bull market is now over. But here is what most people don't realize. The 1980 top was driven by the Hunt brothers trying to corner the market, a speculative event that had nothing to do with the underlying fundamentals. The 2011 top was driven by quantitative easing fears that the Fed eventually chose to walk back. 2026, though, is different. Silver is in its 6th straight year of structural supply deficit. And industrial demand, solar panels, electronics, AI, electric vehicles, now represents 56% of total silver consumption. That demand doesn't pause when the Fed nominates a hawkish chair. Peter Brandt, one of the most respected technical traders alive, the guy who actually called the Jan 30 crash before it happened, turned bullish 3 days later. His words were simple: this is not 2011. Deutsche Bank is modeling 100 by the end of the year. Bank of America's bull case is higher, 135 to 309 if physical shortages intensify. Those numbers used to sound crazy. They don't anymore. The question isn't whether silver tests triple digits again. The question is whether you have a playbook written down for when it does. So here's what I keep coming back to. If silver had stopped at 80 last January and never spiked to 121, almost no one would have made a bad decision. The spike didn't hurt people. The lack of that playbook we're discussing did. What if the next time silver moves, you've already decided what you're doing before the move happens? That's what I want you to really think about. And let me leave you with this question. What are you seeing out there that the headlines aren't covering? Now, before you go, I want to point you again to the briefing I keep mentioning. It walks through the 4-number framework, gives you a 1-page playbook template you can actually fill out with your numbers, and lays out the institutional forecasts, the supply deficit data, and the historical comparisons we just covered, all with sources. It's free. It's the first link in the description. And if this kind of analysis you want more of, like the video, and please do hit subscribe. And the usual reminder before we go, nothing in this video is financial advice. Summit Metals is a physical precious metals dealer, not a financial advisor. So do your own research and talk to a licensed professional before you make any investment decisions. I'm Eric with Summit Metals. I'll see you in the next one, and happy stacking.